Both of you ladies have very strong initiatives. Jen, yourself with LifePack under HIVE. Suzanne, you with 1 Million Black Women under Goldman Sachs. Before we dive deep into the conversation, I just want to create some color here. What do you feel is the difference between social impact and advocacy, i.e. building an actual company that has impact baked into the business model versus advocating or commenting on a belief that your organization stands for? Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Well, I do think there are differences. I think that sometimes you have to stand up on things that are happening around you and advocate on behalf of the people that you support, the communities that you serve, the areas where you're doing business. And with HIVE, we look at social impact as more around being able to model the company's mission around the business that you do. And I think it's a little bit different. We don't look at social impact as a campaign, even though we have campaigns around it. We look at it as a long-term commitment over time, because a lot of the social issues that we work on aren't going to be solved by a campaign. They're not going to be solved in 6 months even. So it really is looking at that kind of authentic commitment to be able to track metrics that, you know, sometimes take a long time to change: gender equality, the racial wealth gap, things like that.
Love that. Suzanne?
I totally agree with all of those comments. The way we really think about social impact is that there are systems that are not working as they should. And at Goldman Sachs, we are a large player in financial systems. And so we look at our core businesses and how we can use those core businesses and embed this work into them in ways that are based in data that we can gather and analyze, which is the work that we do for our clients, and then measurable over a long period of time. We'll talk about 1 million Black women, but that's a 10-year goal for us. We know this is a big problem. It's going to take long-term solutions, and we want to be part of that solution. But 10 years in our work will only get us part of the way there.
I so agree. And I just want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit, because a lot of the times you hear social impact. How do you keep your organization from confusing social impact with philanthropic work? Like many times we'll hear, oh, we can volunteer, or maybe we can donate. How do you help them understand that, no, this is actually a cause that we can get behind that will yield actual metrics or economic gain? Or is that even criteria that's being considered when you guys make those decisions?
Well, I can jump in here, because I think both are important. You know, the check writing and philanthropy is really important as we go through. But, you know, I used to run an organization called RED to fight AIDS in Africa. And, you know, we used to always say you could go and ask for a check once, but you couldn't go and ask every year because of the nature of the problem. And so being able to create a sustainable flow of funding by creating a model that not only serves the issue that we're supporting, but also grows the business of the companies that are a part of it, we're critical. And I think it's absolutely critical as we go forward into kind of some of these very big intractable issues that we're focused on: climate change, you know, poverty, disease, et cetera.
Suzanne, what about yourself?
I think this has been a journey. I've been at Goldman for 20 years, and for a long time, we've had a great philanthropic commitment to communities that we work and live in. And employees expect that as part of coming to work every day at organizations that they commit their time to. You know, what we've seen over time is ways that we can also do this in our day-to-day business, and that it's not black and white, it's not either or. So actually in 1 million Black women, one of the things that we're doing is we have investment that is philanthropic, we have investment that is concessionary, and we have investment that is market rate. And that's language that we use as a way of talking about the fact that there are different interventions that require different types of capital.
I so appreciate that. Suzanne, 1 million Black women is allocating $10 billion, I want to emphasize that, of direct investment into Black-led, female-founded businesses. Describe how you guys started and landed on this particular cause. I mean, there's so many causes that you could have went with. Why this one?
So I won't take you through the whole 20-year history, but we've really had an arc of working on identifying solutions around women and women's involvement in the workforce for many, many years now. And this goes back to very early research that was done by a key female leader at Goldman Sachs in Japan called Womenomics. And this was Kathy Matsui 20 years ago. And so we've had a variety of programs, some of which have been philanthropic, like our 10,000 Women program, which started 13 years ago. And so we feel that we're building on the learning and the interventions that we've done in the past, including a program I also work with called Launch with GS, which invests in Black, Latinx, and women-founded businesses. We had a moment in time last year with a reckoning around social justice where we took a lot of that learning and we said, what can we do to focus the efforts of Goldman Sachs on the issues that we see as so profound in our communities in the United States? And there were the voices of very important female Black leaders at Goldman Sachs who identified through this work that Black women were one of the most underserved communities and a linchpin in the United States that is not recognized and not given their due. And so from that understanding, we came to this idea of a large scale, long-term program with those three elements of concessionary, philanthropic, and market rate capital to address the key milestones in women's lives. And I think that that's something that everyone at Goldman and everyone we talk to connects with in a very profound way, which is there are these very special moments, whether it's giving birth, attaining education, attaining a job, that are hopeful for a lot of us. And unfortunately, those are often steps aside or steps back in inequality for Black women. And so we identified those 7 points in life that we could intervene in, including housing, capital, wages, healthcare, which is an area we know that Black women are deeply underserved in. And now we have this flexible capital. And so it's very creative. It's really energized the organization. And we're partnering with great organizations around the country to do this work because we know we can't do it alone and we for sure don't have all the answers ourselves.
As a former female founder, I so appreciate all that you just said. Thank you for that. So sometimes we get founders who can't choose what they want to focus on. And so they end up boiling the ocean. So their target demographic doesn't know what to do or what to support, which results in a failed campaign or a lack of momentum. So Jen, I played LifePack, the game, and the data was super eye-opening, informative, and a little alarming, to be honest. Why is it so important that founders focus on one particular cause and they focus on their why?
Well, I think they're kind of, the main one is authenticity. I think that, we have consumers and the public are smarter than we give them credit for. They're super cynical. And I think that, if you kind of do too many things in too many places, people really don't know what you stand for. I will say that it's not always a one and done. I'll give you an example. We used to work with Getty Images, and in the early days, we were talking to them around, aligning around social issues. And the leader of the company at the time was very committed to kind of two different issues that he wanted to talk about. But this was at the time of the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals. We did a big analysis and looking at the company themselves. Getty has photographers on the front line of literally every social issue because of where they're located. And it wasn't really, we actually recommended they not choose one issue, but really be one of the founding partners of the Sustainable Development Goals to be able to incorporate the business that they do and able to move missions forward and being able to achieve the SDGs by 2030. So that is an example of kind of how you really, I think it's more about looking at the company and the business that you're in, aligning that with the morals and the vision and the values that you have, and what is going to resonate most with your customer. Because we don't want to forget, I think social impact is not about forgetting that we're in business. It is about being able to make impact on the issues you care about through the business that you're in.
I so agree. When it comes to data, what, like you said, obviously this is not a philanthropic effort. What are your key stakeholders looking for in terms of metrics to say, hey, this was a successful campaign for us?
Yeah. Well, with LifePack in particular, so, LifePack is working with the video game industry to unite them to help us end childhood malnutrition. 50 million kids right now are at risk of dying of severe malnutrition. And what we found when we did our research was that Gen Z it has kind of activism at the heart of who they are. And that poverty and hunger were really far up on that, high up on 1 and 2 on the issues that they care about globally. So when we talk to our video game partners that we have on board, we just launched with Tilting Point's SpongeBob Krusty Cook-Off. And, it was really being able to, one, the difference with malnutrition from some of the other issues is it's extremely quantifiable. And sometimes that's really hard in social impact. It's really hard to quantify impact. But with malnutrition, treatment is 25 cents for a packet of RUTFs, which is ready to use therapeutic food. 75 cents a day for 6 to 8 weeks can literally bring a child back from the brink of death. When you think about video games and scoring and points and battle and competition, having that kind of metric there to show how much money has been raised in a particular point of time by a particular person is really motivating. People want to be a part of something that is successful. So, when we launched LifePack, we launched it with that challenge of the game, which is, I think, very hard, but we wanted to get 10,000 plays of that day of the game in order to raise 10,000 days of food. And that kind of competition and that kind of metric really galvanized the industry around us to be able to show this is the impact we're having. Unlike Goldman Sachs, not everyone can kind of come out with a financial commitment and say, we have $10 billion, but they can say, we are going to garner, really bring together our community and raise 10,000 days of food or 1 million days of food, or we're going to serve, 1 million children. So I think it's those metrics that we really look at when we look at social impact, along with, increased engagement, loyalty, new users, that kind of stuff.
I love the gamification behind it. I felt like I was playing Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I keep dying? But yeah, no, but it was extremely impactful. And every time, like, I would get to a certain point and the messaging that came up, it really resonated. Suzanne, what about yourself? How do you all quantify impact?
So we really are about the numbers as well. And we put them right in the title of our program. So 1 million Black women, the goal is to reach and impact the lives of 1 million Black women over this 10-year period. But we know that that's a big holistic goal that includes founders of companies that we're going to back, the employees of those companies if they're disproportionately Black women, and the consumers of the products and services that companies in these areas will deliver. And so, there's a ton of different examples. There's one example we're really excited about right now of a company that's founded by a Black woman that does certifications for home healthcare aides who are disproportionately Black women. And with increased certification, you can increase your income and your job opportunities. And so that's an example where all the consumers of that company would be beneficiaries of what we're doing. But the second thing that goes without saying is also the investment returns of the investments that we're making. But in any circumstance, we measure the philanthropic returns in the same way that we would measure our for-profit investment returns. And we expect to be very public about this because our capital is important, but one of the things that we hear, to Jen's point on data, when we talk to other organizations about why we believe that investing in diverse founders and diverse communities is a good idea, you get the answer back, well, is there any data on that? Which I find incredibly confounding because you often present more data and it's viewed as tangential or academic. But we view this as we're putting our money where our mouth is. We believe that this is a good investment and we're producing data that will say that we have made good returns and others should do the same. And then also, personally, we just want to also tell the stories of these great founders. And if you keep telling stories of great founders and those founders look in very different ways and have come through very different journeys, our hope is that we can address some of the bias of why people see visionary founders in their head as white men.
I'm excited for it all. So we're at Future Perfect. Influencers are all the rage at the moment. And we want to know, how do you, with both of your organizations, how do you focus on authenticity? Because we, of course, have seen this shift from traditional media to now social media and influencer marketing. So with your organizations, how does authenticity come into play?
Suzanne, do you want to?
Sure. I mean, I'm on this journey too. I've been in the corporate world from a time when, you weren't supposed to say who you worked for on LinkedIn to now we live in a very different world. I think for me personally, a big part of authenticity is bringing your whole self to work and being able to share that internally and externally. And so when you look around Goldman Sachs at the leaders of initiatives like Launch with GS and 1 Million Black Women, this connects to their personal lives, personal missions, and personal experiences, as well as their professional lives. And that's a very important part of that. But I would also say, it doesn't have to be only the women, the Black women doing this work. Our CEO, David Solomon, has been essential in leading the charge, and he has a personal commitment to this. So it doesn't require segmenting people into different groups, but it requires that people understand that this is a personal as well as professional commitment of the leadership of the firm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, because of the nature of the organizations that we work with, and sometimes social impact doesn't always have the biggest budgets, influencers and influence is absolutely a critical piece for us to break through. And I have been lucky enough for, in my pivot from advertising into social impact, having run the Red organization and seeing one of the most successful influencers in Bono, really become a student of the, he is a student of the issue. He knows about poverty and HIV/AIDS better than any expert, I think. And it really kind of sets a precedent for how you want to recruit influencers to help speak on behalf of the company or the issue or the people that you are representing. So, I'll give an example. We work with the Gates Foundation on a project that is led by our Kenyan team, our HIVE Kenyan team, called Better for Kenya, which is a focus of making sure that gender issues and gender-based violence issues remain on the agendas of policymakers throughout Kenya. And it is an influencer campaign. We have some of the most incredible people, Janet Mbugua, who is a media personality, King Kaka, who is one of the largest rappers across the continent, speaking on behalf of gender issues to really rally the public and make sure that these issues stay top of mind. And it is their authenticity and commitment and education around the issue that really helps to bring this to life. And we launched it about 3 years ago, and just to see the vibrancy and the awareness, not only from the public, but of policymakers. Janet just moderated a group at the Generation Equality Forum last week. It is really, there's no media budget that could actually compete with that. It is really, when you have an influencer, whether that be somebody like Janet or a CEO like David, having worked with Goldman Sachs on some of the strategic work on it, or people at one.org who are, the CEO of our client One. She has been seconded by the White House to lead pandemic response. Those kinds of things are not, influence is not just about celebrity, but it is about being able to authentically show the urgency of these issues, because sometimes people don't realize how urgent these issues are because we've been living with them for so long. And it's that voice or voices that can really help to, make people sit up and break through and cut through and pay attention.
Thank you, ladies. Such powerful answers. If one of our amazing audience members wanted to connect with your organizations, how would they go about doing that?
So on our website for 1 Million Black Women, as well as Launch with GS, we have contact information, and you can send an email, which appears to go into the void, but actually our teams read it and respond very quickly.
And for us, our website is ahive.com, but you can reach me directly at jennifer@ahive.com. Jennifer with one N though.
Thank you so much for your time.